before we begin tonight, first, thank you for coming and spending your time with us. I kindly remind everyone that at this time, the school's rule of our health and safety plan would require a mask in this space and in all school buildings. We do have masks available. I'm told it for pumpkin immediately below the stage. So we finally requested it and asked for your compliance and we'll run that through this.
The regular monthly board meeting of the Amherst Area School District Board of Directors on Wednesday, November 17, 2021 is now called to order. Please rise for the flag salute. This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mrs. Curtis? Here. Mrs. Kehoe? Here. Dr. Mandela? Here. Mr. Metz?
Here.
Ms. Pettigo? Ms. Young? Here. Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
8 present.
Can I have the sunshine law, please?
The Board of School Directors held an executive session on Wednesday, November 10th and Wednesday, November 17th to discuss the following: personnel matters, matters subject to attorney-client privilege and other confidentiality laws, and safety and security.
Do we have any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence.
Thank you. I have a motion to accept or correct the minutes of Wednesday, October 13th meet and discuss voting meeting, Wednesday, October 13th meet and discuss non-voting meeting, and Wednesday, October 20th board meeting. Thank you, Dr. Magnell. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Young. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report dated October 2021. Thank you, Mrs. Keegan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No amendments or addendums to the agenda this evening. Moving forward to recognition and presentation, Dr. Pasquarella.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Hurt, Amherst Area Middle School Principal. Mr. Hurt, can you please come forward?
All right, one more time. Can you guys hear me? Tom, can you hear me? Good. All right. Good. So, hey, thank you for the warm welcome. The first 3 days have been great. I'm excited to be a part of this district. I'm excited to lead and serve at Amherst Area Middle School. I'm glad you all came out. I look forward to doing a lot of stuff with our community, with our schools. I'm just very gracious for this opportunity. So I thank you all so much. Welcome. So thank you.
On behalf of the district and board of directors, Renell, we are so happy to have you, and we look forward to all the wonderful things you're going to do here at Amherst for the kids. Thank you. Can I have the Amherst varsity cheerleaders come forward? The Amherst varsity cheerleaders attended 2 competitions this past weekend. On Saturday, the girls competed at Laurel High School, placing 2nd. On Sunday, November 14th, they attended the UCA regional competition where they placed 6 out of 15 teams and received a score high enough to receive a bid to nationals. This is the first time in over 20 years that the AHS cheerleaders have received a bid and will have the opportunity to compete in February 2022 at Walt Disney World in Florida. The award to the coaches. On behalf of the district girls, we're very proud of you, and we look forward to your future, and we look forward to seeing you competing in many more competitions. Thank you, girls, and thanks, coaches, and thanks for attending so we can honor you. We're proud of you. All right, boys varsity soccer. Need a wide lens for that picture. You want some to go? The Amherst Area School District and its Board of Directors would like to congratulate the Amherst Area Boys Soccer Team on an outstanding season. The boys made it to the WPIAL semifinals and the PIAA state quarterfinals, which is further than the Amherst Boys Soccer Team has accomplished since 2005. The team finished 2nd in the section and had a record of 14-7, which includes WPIAL and state playoffs. The district and board of directors would also like to congratulate students Nico Manos, Will Bertha, Nico, Will, and Hayden Homan for earning AA All Section Honors and AA All WPIAL Honors. Nathan Lambert and Ryan Conover are recognized for earning AA All Section Honors. Tyler Sims is also recognized for earning Honorable Mention for AA All Section Honors. Lastly, we are proud to recognize head coach Ben Fiore for achieving AA WPIAL Coach of the Year. Please. Ryan? Fiore, in his first year with Ambridge as the boys' head coach, and it's his first year, and he has done an excellent job at coaching and leading our student athletes. We are so very proud of you boys, and we look forward to your future. Thanks for representing Ambridge. Thanks for coming, guys. Before we move forward to public comment, we have, in honor of the teachers of the Ambridge Area School District and the impact the teachers had on the class of '79, they have established an endowment fund to recognize teachers on an annual basis for their contributions to excellence in education. Mr. Mercandani, a technology education teacher at Ambridge, embodies the qualities of a teacher dedicated to excellence. The best testimony for this comes directly from the words of the person who submitted his nomination. Mr. Merck goes above and beyond the classroom. He encourages and guides the students not only in the manufacturing coursework, but also with the many choices daily life brings. He is always smiling and ready to lend a hand. He has built endless cabinets, shelves, community projects, and a canoe with his students. He supports the TSA competitions from behind the scenes. He stays after often to work with many individual projects. His work and knowledge has been passed down over 2 decades of students. He is simply the best and amazing. I hope you had a chance to have him as a teacher. Many of these students now run their own businesses or further their education with a firm hands-on learning experience in engineering, manufacturing, or other fabrication fields. Mr. Mercandani inspired, supported, and joked to simply make things better. Congratulations on this honor, Mr. Mercandani. He could not be here this evening, but we thank him. Moving forward to public comment regarding agenda items only. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each resident will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. This period for public comment prior to the standing committee reports will be limited to 1/2 hour. Although not required, board members desiring to address questions or concerns may do so after the residents' comments, questions, or at the conclusion of the committee reports. There will still be an opportunity for residents to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District under old and new business at the end of the meeting.
Congratulations to all those people, by the way, all those students, that's great. So this is kind of a question that I had in general and meant to ask before, but like when you go through the agenda here and we have like the Caring Foundation agreement and the Technology Expo, and when we bring all these extracurricular or outside plans, whether they be with any outside educators, programs, anything like that, what is the negotiation process? You guys all know what's going on in the programs, whether it be outreach, prevention, any sort of those programs like that. At the county level, it's, like on a private level. Who negotiates those? When do you find out? If someone could shed some light on that process, how we work through that process, when you guys know, because it's just kind of difficult whenever you go through and you read and we're approving it, but I don't necessarily know. I would love to know about, the Caring Foundation and where this all starts, how long ago it starts, when does the negotiation process start, who's negotiating that, is there a subcontractor or something like that that works through that to negotiate those, and would it be possible to maybe get that information public ahead of time so we could actually know those programs before they're instituted? And that is kind of leads me into, with our health and safety plan, I know that vaccines are a part of the health and safety program, but it's just kind of a broad, general statement. There's nothing really curtailed in there. Are we in talks or works with any of those programs to put up vaccine clinics? And if that's in the works for Amber School District, there's a lot of other communities that are doing those. If someone could let us know ahead of time, or we would like to know if that's going to happen. Thank you.
So in general, it depends on which of the programs you're talking about. Most of the programs, I won't say all, but most of them, they either list at no cost on the agenda or at no cost to the school district, or if there is a cost, we usually list at a certain amount. On that note, you just brought one, but in general, some of the other ones, if there is prevention, as an example, I think you mentioned that one. If we have alternative education or special education seats, we approve that agreement. And usually it says per the agreement or listed the cost for that. I think your other question was a little bit about vaccines and clinics that go with that. Currently, I think there's a lot that's encouraged about vaccine clinics. At this given point, what I think our responsibility as one of the things that we need to do as part of our plan, at least to the best of my knowledge at this point, is to let folks know where and when those are available if it's brought to our attention. There is a push to try to, ask schools to do that. At this given point, I personally haven't, recommended that to anyone or to the board. I think at this given point, there are opportunities for those folks who want to get those, to get the vaccination, places to get that. And so, we did, I believe, or we would, if we got presented with, can you advertise that so-and-so is going to run this? We've done that as an optional thing, not endorsing it. There is options for the school district to have their own vaccination clinic from different folks if you want to do. I'm personally not recommending that at this point. That's my position.
Who specifically, who is the person? Does Ambridge have a designated person who negotiates the contracts from outside businesses or entities, whether they're county, private? And also, if they're at no cost, that I'm just confused because, in other words, how is this not costing the district any money? Because, and essentially, all of these people people who you're accepting with all these foundations and agreements and all that would essentially be like volunteers. They're not getting paid. How is it not costing anything?
Okay, so to answer the question as far as negotiating, some of those agreements usually go up through the department in which they're coming up. For example, special education or the business office on different contracts. Then they will come to me for the final, most of the time, final negotiations if necessary. There are a lot of state-funded, community-type things. I could ask somebody to speak to this exact one, this Dr. Filipowski may know. But in general, what I'm saying to you is as an example, we have school-based mental health in our schools, in many of our schools. And there's some county sponsorship and also that they're able to build insurances if people's personal insurance wants to cover that instead of having to go out. So the answer to your question, how is it funded? Sometimes it's a mix between, you're asking a general statement, and if you wanted it for a specific ones, I'm just trying to give you an example. So, I mean, there are some where they are state or county funded in some component, or they do bill folks insurance for the mental health services if they have it, and if they don't, they don't. So those are some of the examples that I'm trying to share. There are some that, to your point, where no, the district would have to pay, as I indicated, for alternative education, example, and or prevention specialists. If we did approve those types of things, then that would be negotiated with that given party, and that would come across the agenda for the board to vote. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So much. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, moving forward to the committee reports. Education and Technology, Dr. Manganiello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have for adoption tonight items 1 through 3 in education.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes, and I would like to thank everyone for their effort on number 8 for getting us the additional information from last week, and I appreciate the work that you guys did for that.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Yes. Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Finance and Budget. Mr. Angus, would you take that from Pedro? She's out of town this evening.
Sure, under finance and budget this evening, I move the adoption of items 1 through 7 as written as proposed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Manganiello. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Building and Grounds, Mr. Angus.
This evening, I have one item number 1, I move for adoption.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Roll call, please.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Athletics, Mr. Campbell.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Public Relations, Mr. Metz.
Nothing at this time.
Steering and Rules, Mrs. Kehoe.
I'd like to move for the adoption of items 1 through 7 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Legislative, Ms. Young.
Nothing at this time.
Salary, Schedule, and Labor Relations, Mrs. Curtis.
I have one item for adoption this evening as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Ms. Young?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Personnel, Mr. Angus.
Yes, this evening, I move the adoption of items 1 through 18 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Curtis. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving forward to the solicitor's report.
I didn't know I could.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank all outgoing board members for their work. This volunteer work is extra difficult and ordinary time. And throughout the course of the pandemic, we were faced with a lot of challenges. And you did your very best work for the students in the community. And so on behalf of myself and all the students and staff, we do really appreciate everything that you've done and wish you all the best. And thank you for your help and support.
Thank you. It is now time for old and new business. Any district resident who desires to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District should now come forward. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once.
Hi, Desiree Conrad, Ambridge. Some of the last members. I'm not gonna get to see you anymore. I'm trying to make it, I'm getting, yeah, timing. In regards to the last meeting, I watched it, it was spirited, and there was some tempers going. And I just wanted to say, it was refreshing, because people are actually debating something instead of just putting stuff through. I personally enjoy that, whenever everyone's just quiet and no one has any discussion and no one talks about it. We're not hearing both sides. So even though there were some things that maybe I didn't agree with, I have to say that to me, it sounded like freedom. That's what freedom sounds like, and that's fine any day in my book. I will say, Dr. Manganiello, you mentioned that about the board, other boards not giving responses and answers, and I've stated that in the past. You're absolutely correct. They don't. They don't ever give responses a lot of times, and I will agree with you on that. I don't agree that it's not our right as parents who are concerned and who our kids are our lives and our children, and we live in this community. We deserve answers. We do. People take time out of their day, and we deserve those answers. But you're right. I've attended other meetings. They don't give you answers, and that needs to change all around, because that's bad policy, and that doesn't make anyone look good. So, questions with new hires and stuff like that. Are the teachers made aware at the time of hiring that it's not required for them to, or do they receive paperwork basically stating the laws that they are not required to join the teachers union? Number one. And I also wanted to hear if we could hear from the solicitor about the ruling on the stay being lifted. We didn't hear anything about that, so we could elaborate on that. And other than that, I think that's all for now. I'm gonna miss seeing you guys. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much.
We'll let Megan answer there, but Desiree, I think we're all in agreement that we want to be as transparent as we possibly can. Sometimes we don't have the answers right in front of us, and it may take, a little time to get that, but.
Are you? We don't mind.
Yeah,
It's all right. That's all right.
And we
It's all
appreciate
right.
you, and we love your kids too, we love our kids, and we do our best, we try to do it.
Right, we're all doing our best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so if you were here last week, or if you watched the video, we saw that at the beginning of the meeting, I kind of said, look, I haven't, that order happened, the decision from the Commonwealth Court came down around the middle of the day last Wednesday. It was no question, even as we rolled towards the end of the close of business, okay, has someone in fact filed the appeal, has the Commonwealth filed the appeal? we were able to verify that late afternoon around 4:30, yes, they had filed the appeal. I'll tell you, even last Wednesday night, I didn't see for another day or so. Those dockets aren't as, they're not open, and completely current in terms of the filings. So I didn't see the Corman party's request for relief from the supersedious, until probably like last Friday. So I think we kind of figured out pretty quickly, that was filed. So as of last Wednesday, in this court drama, right, so we knew that we could see finally, as I sat here, I found the rules of appellate procedure that they were relying on. It's like it's in the statement, I think that was communicated to parents, that gives the Commonwealth the automatic right to supersede the maintenance of status quo while the appeal is pending. And the wild card is unless or until there's an order of court that says otherwise. So that's what we got yesterday, was an order of court from the Commonwealth Court, the same Judge Cannon who had done the opinion last Wednesday. And she said, and so basically it says, okay, no supersedious, no order functionally after December 4th. So here's, on the legal side, the December 4th is not, it's not a completely arbitrary date, and I actually haven't seen how it's been reported today, so I'm not sure if in like the general media there's a lot of analysis about why December 4th. But December 4th is the next publication date of the regulation register for administrative regulations. And so there is possibly an opportunity for the secretary, the acting secretary of health, and I won't tell you that I know exactly what the rulemaking process is internal for emergency rules inside the Department of Health, but what I know is that if it gets published on December 4th, then there's going to be more litigation and more people fighting about whether that is enforceable or not, because ultimately what the judge's decision last week was, it wasn't, the basis of the court's findings telling us that the masking order is void on the nature, right, from the very beginning is what that means. But it was based on not constitutional principles, not statutory principles, well, it's based on the rulemaking authority and whether the appropriate process was followed. So whether or not the health department can follow the right statutory procedures to enact an emergency regulation, why and have it published by December 4th, I don't know. But I think that's why that date was used by the court to see, and I think it's baiting the Department of Health to see if they will try or they'll actually write it and publish it. But that being said, there is still an opportunity, so it's still just choosing, it's not choosing our own adventure particularly, but in the course of that litigation, there still these decisions to be made. It's possible that the Commonwealth, and as I'm sitting here right now, I don't believe they have, appealed the decision of Judge Cannon from yesterday to Pennsylvania Supreme Court, because that is an option that they have. Whether the Supreme Court would take that and make any decision or figure it out before December 4th, I don't know. But so, it's trying to, it's watching on the sidelines and trying to see what these parties do. In the absence, though, of an order, in the absence of the Department of Health issuing or publishing a regulation, an appropriate regulation that is not challenged, the masking order will be stayed, and as of December 4th. So if all those other parties, if the courts don't do something, if, then December 4th is our new date for going back to the health and safety plan, and that is right now as it stands, parental choice. But it's going to be dependent on those other things in the litigation.
So are you saying that with the process that the health department will have an opportunity to correct the law or the mandate that was already ruled upon? Is that what you're
I really believe that that's why the December 4th date was specifically used by the court, because otherwise, I mean, the court could have said, as of yesterday, we're done. And they were under no obligation to pick any specific day, but they did pick December 4th, and that's what December 4th is in the regulation process. So that's my best understanding, at least as we sit here right now trying to guess what's going to happen. And I share that just because, because I think people are really hopeful with yesterday's order that, like, okay, this is the point, right? This is what we know for certain, that December 4th, we get to go back to local control and drop the masks if that's the parent's choice. But there are some ifs still, and I just want to, like, share those with you. I'm not telling you that they're going to do that. I don't know if they've even signaled it, but internally when we're looking at it, trying to understand, okay, why this date? What's the significance? What's the opportunity? What are they signaling? That's my best guess. Which is not a formidable opinion, but that's my best understanding. Kind of what the next 2 to 3 weeks is going to look like. So there could be more litigation. We won't see you as the public until reorganization, which is 2 days after this December 4th. So certainly we will know something then. But as if December 4th is the date when the district will be prepared to communicate with parents, I think it's likely it's possible kind of what the landscape looks like as we approach that date and as that date arrives.
And I wanted to just answer Desiree in regards to the SRO position. Both Dr. Pascarella and myself, late this afternoon, Dr. Pascarella received a call from the police chief and I received a call from the mayor in Economy Borough. So we actually are most likely going to have a meeting to try to come to some sort of. Oh, I thought you mentioned when you said what banter about the SRO. I should have said back there, but I wanted to just let you know that. Okay. Pardon?
Her question was about the, union.
No, it was, but originally when you mentioned about the banter for the SRO, I wanted to respond. I didn't respond earlier. I wanted to make sure that the public knew that we received a call today. Both of us. He received one and I received one.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just simply on the union paperwork, I'm not 100% sure whether or not it's actually in the paperwork that we hand out or not. Typically what happens when any new hires, the union reaches out to them and, offers them the ability and encourages them to join the union. That's what I anticipate. I wouldn't be able to speak to the details other than when I was a teacher, that's what the union president did when I got hired in place. And I'm assuming that's similar. I mean, you have a meeting, you meet with them, and then folks do have an option if they want to join or they don't.
Okay, I just don't think that was done. Thank you.
Good evening, Danielle Merrick, Economy Borough. I just kind of wanted to pick up from the last monthly meeting. I talked about the PACS program that came to the school district with the prevention specialist, Laurel Baker. I'm getting a lot of pushback on previewing the material. So I was just curious if, with the PACS program being an outside vendor, if that curriculum fell under Code 105.1 of the school district's policy manual, if I have the right to view that material.
I'll let you finish your comment, and then if the president wants me to respond, I'll answer that, and then if you ask.
Sure. And then my other question was, I spoke to Mrs. Galixis about the implementation of the program. And I was just curious who in the district actually viewed the material, who approved it, and was it voted on with the school board?
Yes.
If that concludes your question, I mean, the way I understand it in speaking with, I know Mr. King and some other principals, that the past program has been around for quite some time. Since he was an elementary principal. So to answer your question, you know, who approved that originally, if that was on a board agenda, I'm not sure. It would have been, if it was approved at that point, it would have been a long time ago.
How about the current curriculum that is being taught to our children K through
Well,
5?
and, I'll let you finish. I was saying-
Yeah, I'm specifically speaking, I know that cell's been around for 20 years, but specifically speaking, 2012, that definition changed, and that's what I'm concerned about. So, speaking on the current curriculum, not what's been around for 20 years, because what's been around for 20 years isn't what's being taught to our children today. And the fact that I can't view the curriculum sends red flags up to me. So I just want to know who viewed the current curriculum that Laura Baker is using currently in the school district.
So I guess I have a question for you, or about 5, probably.
Sure.
Define curriculum for us, of what you mean for
Sure.
who reviewed curriculum, because curriculum and resources, totally different definitions. So I'm trying to understand so I can help support what you're asking.
So
And I'm a little
it's
confused.
exactly the material that Laura Baker is presenting to the kids. I don't know
So
what that
we-
looks like,
So
whether
you're
it's
worried about
teaching.
the resources.
Yeah, I'm just curious what's in the material because
So
that
the
is.
handouts, like,
Sure.
that the kids are doing is.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, and, you know, that can influence my child's character, and that's important to me. I just want to make sure it's being shaped in the way that I approve of as a parent.
So I think those are different questions than what you're asking us.
Yeah, I just wanted to view what was being discussed in the classroom, and
Okay.
I wasn't
Because
given.
curriculum is a framework, you're asking for, can I see the material?
Yeah, I just
that
want
my
to see
child's
what's happening
reading?
in the classroom and what we're talking about and how we're shaping my child's mindset.
Okay, so since the last time you had asked that question, I've had principals try to do this Baker. I know you had some questions about, and I think they got back to you on some of it with regards to credentials and those types of things. I did ask for the curriculum and they said that per that curriculum that they teach or resource that they teach in New Zealand, that they would be able to provide you with the general topics and that in general, we don't give them all the copyrighted materials. But I'll continue to ask, why not? I agree. Well, let me just finish. I want to finish. That's all. I'm not being mean here. Just when you're done, I'll try to finish. That's how I was. So if you have additional questions, I'll write them down.
Yeah, I just feel that we have the right to know what's happening in the classroom.
So now my response is to that. I agree with you that you should know what was in there. I asked them for that material, and the principals did, actually. And I believe Mrs. Galitzis, in particular, asked her for those materials. They did say to hand everything out, and it was something about copywriting from her perspective. That's her, they teach that curriculum. I don't see why you can't see more, so I'll continue to investigate as to why you can't see the specific sheets. I did say, let's send you everything that you feel that we can share. Maybe that's enough. Obviously, you don't feel that that's enough, but I think they shared a variety of topics and things in and around character that were discussed. I think you did get at least that much, correct?
I didn't get anything.
Not, you didn't get anything about any of the topics that are covered?
I was told that we hadn't been used to let you do that, so
Okay.
that's my.
All right. Well, I think we could at least get you some topics as far as the entire manual. I'm not trying to hide anything here, but I looked at it since you've inquired about it again and talked to Mr. King as well. I mean, generally speaking, I didn't review every sheet of paper that is handed out. I'm not going to tell you that I did at this point. But I do think that most of it just talked about character and such. And I also said that if, as we always do, sometimes you can't modify assignments or things like that. We have to explain. But when possible, if there's a way to modify an assignment or allow somebody to have another opportunity if they don't feel comfortable, then, you know, we would try to extend that opportunity. I mean, I think that's what we want to do for any assignment. Sometimes that's not possible. We can't always modify every assignment for everybody. But when possible, we want to work with people. So not to talk specific about your situation, but I think we did encourage folks just to reach out to you, and if you were interested in not participating in that, trying to work out, you know, why that might be, and work with you on that. I don't want to talk any specifics, but that's it. But to your point, I'll follow up again on the exact every sheet of paper, and if that's what you're requesting. You know, from where I sit, I would rather you look at a general table of contents of you concerns that we give you some specific answers to that question, as opposed to simply printing off an entire year's worth of manuals that they may be using as a resource. So I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to get you your information from last time. So my only point to you is, since you asked, I believe the principal did follow up with you at least, and try to work with you on this situation. Well, I know that she spoke to you, and you would agree with that. Yeah.
I believe it's free online too for parents. Like, I looked into it after you inquired also.
Yeah, you can download like the first lesson
Correct.
of every grade. So I just wanted to see all the lessons.
And that's kind of what they're saying. I don't think it's her saying that, I think it's whoever is in charge saying, we don't have the right by copyright to print off everything for everybody. But to your point, to view it, I mean, if there was a specific something that you would want to view, you're saying everything. I'm just trying to be helpful, not difficult, honestly. If there's something that you're concerned about, I'd like you to be able to view that. I mean, we're not hiding anything from that, and I don't think they are either. They just said, we can't run off this whole copyrighted document. They didn't have the authorization to do that, according to what she told me. So I would encourage you, what I'm going to ask at this given point, to be honest, is I'll see if Mrs. Felicitas can get you something closer to a table of contents of what's being covered in the file. And if you have additional specifics on that, we'll go from there. Does that seem fair?
Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Fisher from Economy Borough. I'm actually piggybacking the past program as well. She asked one of the same questions I had, but I'm not so concerned about the curriculum at this moment. I'm a researcher and I love processes and systems. So I want to know, did you guys interview Lauren Baker personally? I guess I'll wait to the end to get the questions. So from what I understand, she is a prevention specialist, a professional who provides education, resources, and support to individuals who might be at risk for poor health and wellness outcomes. My children, I have 3 attending Economy Elementary, are not at risk of poor health and wellness, so why are they being taught by a prevention specialist? I understand that there's a place and a need for one, but to teach the class collectively, I have concerns about that. Secondly, I've never met the woman. I've met their teachers, but I haven't met her, nor was I given contact information so I could vet her myself. She has not built a relationship with my students as their teachers have, so I don't think she's in a good position to talk about my kids in such sensitive topics. I also propose that going forward, all parents shall be notified and asked to sign a permission slip before such curricula as the PATS program or any others outside the realm of academics, math, English, science, history, etc., before being instituted in the classrooms. Parents have the right to know what their children are being taught and to choose whether or not they would like their child to participate or be exempt from certain instruction.
I guess my comment to that is, you know, we do have say-so as far as specific interviews of folks. I mean, I think we have the right, I'm not going to talk about any members, in general. That still, even though it's an outside agency, still.
It makes sense, as someone that's not inside the building on an everyday basis.
Right, so we don't really, but we do have a say-so. So if we found that we had positives or concerns, and I'm not speaking of this individual, I'm just saying in general. They're not an employee of the Andrews Area School District, we have whether it's through an agency, county, or whatever that we're working with, we do obviously have the right to, to some extent, air our concerns if we have any, But to answer your question, do we personally interview? I mean, I think we could have a right to involved in that, but we also don't have to. That's the answer to that. And then I think you were just asking, contact information and those types of things. I think if you have specific questions, with regards to outside agency folks that are coming in, I think that you probably should start, in this case, with the principal and get that contact information, and see what they might be able to help you with and guide that. Because as far as as an example, I have seen some folks at some of our open house be present, but technically they don't have a contract like our teachers that say you will be there for open house. You know what I mean? So I do think communication is important with those folks, but they're there to provide some services. So in some regards, I think if you have a question about that, it would make sense to let the principal know, and they can work together on how they would address any issues that you have. And permission slips to do that. I mean, we have a lot of different types of character education and those types of things that do go on in school systems. That's not specific to solely Cambridge. And for the most part, as I said, these are things that are provided to students, and they are a whole group, and everyone will receive that. If a parent has a concern or an issue, they surely will bring it up. And as I had said earlier, if we were looking to try to modify that assignment when possible, or give people opportunities, that's something we would attempt to work with.
Okay, well, we weren't even notified of the program. I feel like transparency, we should have had a little bit more information on it. I did not opt my children out of it, just so you know, at this point. But I was looking at the section 105 in the manual, which Dana brought up, about being able to see the curriculum. And it doesn't specifically say in there that you would send copies. It said that she could view the curriculum. So would it be possible for us to go to the school and come into a class or room with Ms. Blitz's and review the material? You don't have to, I understand there's copyright issues and I wouldn't want to violate those laws. I understand that, but we should be able to view every single thing that is shown to our child if we want to.
I think that's the misunderstanding and why I asked Danielle that question of curriculum versus resources. So the policy permits you, and they're adding to the state where you have to soon have it on
It does
the
say
web.
resources and words like that in that particular 105 section.
I guess from where I sit, I would work as I was trying to before, because I really don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't really see a reason why you want to look at why not. I'm just telling you, in the month, we did work on it, we tried to get that. I am trying to, be respectful to the company and the group that's providing the services, and also to the parents, so that we can get an answer to what we want. I think that's what we're trying to do. I will engage again, and if I have to speak to maybe the supervisor of that program, and see what we might be able to do for you folks to view that, to decide. I don't really have a huge concern in doing it. So I'm not trying to not do it, at least myself. And I don't think our principal is either. We're just trying to work with these folks. I also think at some point we are trying to get answers, and I did see some answers when we have from that individual to the principal. The principal made contact with the parent. And, in the same idea, I think, the grade level or lessons that you want to see, or the worksheets that are going to be handed out, I don't see a huge issue with you taking a look at it. I don't think there's anything that we're trying to hide. If they're not allowed to do that, I guess I'll check with my solicitor and see why that would be. If you're not making a copy of it, you just want to see it, why not? So within reason, I would just say as far as resources go and such that, if we had to meet, I'm just going to be transparent and using your word. I have nothing to hide, but if every day we had to go and show every single worksheet. I'm not saying no to that, but it would be helpful to us that we narrow down what you want to see. Right now, you're only asking about paths and so on and so forth. A lot of the worksheets and things are probably available in the other curriculums, either on our online systems or folks that come home. So I don't think you're asking anything
She only comes
unreasonable.
once a month, correct? Is from what I understand, she only comes once a month, so that's,
Well,
August to.
I'll ask again to see what we can get. And your request is, can I come in and view what my kid's going to see for the month?
Yeah.
I'll see what I'll ask again.
Okay, and then can we just have a little bit more communication regarding programs like this so the parents can know exactly
say to that response, I'm not, you know, I think we do try to communicate, there's opportunities to do that, if you have concerns or questions, you can let us know. I'm not gonna make a rubber stamp that says every, I couldn't possibly let you know every single thing, every single day, that would be the entire, that would be something
I
entire
don't know what's going
job.
on every single day, but like the past program's a big thing, or, you know, the mental health programs you're gonna be, like, bring on that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Those are wonderful resources, but I want you to communicate that to me. I don't wanna find out on a newsletter that my kid threw away from their folder. You know, I want you to communicate that to us.
That might be a piece of communication. In fairness, you may not agree with that. The
Well,
newsletter-
obviously you don't have a first grader.
No, don't be nervous.
Hi, I'm Dawn Research. I live in Maine. There's three things I have questions about. The first thing is WBC has your pathways program at the school. I myself have a different agency, and I didn't know if you guys, what your process was as far as choosing an agency that provides school-based mental health. Second question is, how do we get our school sport added? So my daughter plays lacrosse and it's a club sport now, which I would like to see into school sponsored sport. And three, the varsity cheer team, obviously we recognize them this evening. What does that process look like as far as getting that approved for them to go to Disney? Obviously it's a big expense for a lot of families, and we just want to learn what that's like as far as like planning financially. That's it.
So, I know we have quite a few new administrators, but I can tell you the process at least. So, the school-based mental health that was selected here was probably already selected. I know that as far as when I got here, I know when we were trying to implement it when I was here before as assistant superintendent last time, it was very important to me that we got those services in. And I know we met with the county and looked at different resources that are available. I do know in Allegheny County that there was an interview process recently to decide who would get the services. I'm not sure 100% to be truthful with you, whether, because that was already decided who would be providing those services, whether we did an interview process or if that was just an Allegheny County type thing, and in Beaver County we just did that. I'm not 100% sure the answer to your question on how they got chosen.
I know that, so I run family medical resources, and we're located in Center Township. It's in Beaver County, and I have 9 school districts in the area. Amberton, Central Valley, and Blackhawk are my only school districts that I don't provide school-based mental health in. So I was just kind of curious what that looks like.
So I remember there were some folks that like I said, that was a long time ago, it was a big meeting, to get that going, and they finished that off, and so it's probably been in play. I bet you only a couple of years after that, until the present. So I'm not exactly sure to be truthful, but how they chose that, because I wasn't part of that decision. I know in general, people have been pleased with the services that we've been provided. I can say that, but at least I've not been made aware of anyone who's not. But to your point, that's the best I can answer that question. I don't know if there's something, once you're with a group and you're comfortable with them, I don't know when or if you move, unless you're unsatisfied. That's that answer. The next question I think you asked was about recognizing lacrosse, sharing that.
Yeah, lacrosse right now is a club sport, and I would be interested in seeing what that looks like to make it a school-sponsored sport rather than a club sport.
So I would encourage you, and I'm not saying it would, that would come down to whether or not that's applicable, and you have to put in that you're going to make that an official sport. I would encourage you at this point for information purposes to reach out to Mr. Third. He's the athletic director. He's actually here today. So you can reach out to him and put that out there. I don't know how easy that would be, and if the board would be, in agreement to that. When you have to let people know that you are going to create new sports, sometimes once you submit that, it takes a window of time before you would be able to submit a new sport again. But he would be able to gain some more information about that, and then ultimately present that to myself and the administration, and then ultimately, if we were in agreement, we would recommend to the board, and then the board would have to decide, based upon those timelines and
Joe, this team is already a Whitfield team. So it's not really going to the turf to find out at the Whitfield how we deal with it there. She just wants to see how the school district, if they need to do anything moving forward now that we realize that they're Whitfields.
So my question on that though, and I mean, this is a live conversation and I would need to do some additional research before I make my statement. But I know that there are, I don't know, but I think there are some places where lacrosse is not a club sport. I don't know what the right terminology would be, but it's an actual Whitfield sport, not a club.
Correct.
It is.
School
So
sponsor.
the Whitfield has a lacrosse section, and most schools in this area are, like, it's a school-sponsored sport. It's through the Whitfield, it's just like any other school sport that there is. Ambridge, the sport was created as a club sport, and the school district agreed to let them use, like, the colors in their name. But we were on, when you join, when you make a sport, you're in like a probation period with Whitfield. And last year was our first year that we were actually a Whitfield team, and had a Whitfield schedule. And last year you guys were great enough to put like.
So you asked me about, not you, but somebody asked me about the lines, and you put the
Right.
lines on, I don't want to.
That was last year, yes. The
Okay,
lines got put
I
on the
remember
field
that.
for us to be able to play there.
Yeah.
But the sport itself is not recognized as like a school.
In other words, you're looking to see what would have to happen if we would want to pay a coach a stipend, and if we would want to,
Yes, exactly.
not just let you use the field, but
Yes,
provide transportation to pay for this.
correct, yes.
Do you get transportation for it?
We currently, the Vicky Reed was the head coach before, I don't know if she's going to stay on that position, but last year, my daughter plays, I paid $250 at the beginning of the season just to help with the buses. As far as transporting them back and forth, and we could use roads, but it wasn't obviously, like I said, wasn't provided for the school.
I still feel, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Campbell, I still feel that, I think if we could get her to put through all of her requests and what she's looking to do, whether that's through Mr. Turk or to myself, I guess that doesn't matter, then we'd have to bring that to the board for consideration. And, we probably need to know, what type of budget are you currently paying for and you're asking the district to pay?
Okay, so I can just speak at the meeting and start from there.
Yeah, and then you to me, I anticipate that putting together what you already know as opposed to what the budget is and what you're asking the district to pay for. I remember, even in all the schools, there are boosters that still pay for some of them.
Right, well, we don't have a booster program yet because it's so new, so.
I get it, I get what you're saying. My point is, as I said it when I said about the lines. And if you guys have a team, you've got kids playing in that, you want to make sure that, you have access to these. It did cost more than just the lines, honestly. But I think you know that. There's other things that go when you open the stadium and those types of things versus using the middle school field, I think is where you're using.
Yeah.
You have people monitoring that and the restroom. But it was deservingly so, in my opinion, as I recommended it to the board, because you had the number of students, and I don't know how many you had a lot of kids participating.
It's wonderful, the girls,
Anyway, I would just get that organized into a request and talk with them and then move it up, and we would ultimately talk to the board about how much more they want to do. And then I think your last thing is trip to Disney with the cheerleaders. And obviously, usually what happens there again, they're going to meet the coach and the boosters are going to meet. A couple things that usually go into that, in my experience, is they decide what they're going to ask the district to do in addition to allowing those coaches or students to be, if they have to miss in school, to be excused for that. That's one thing, depending on what days. And then, if anything, that they're asking for the district to help compensate. Often, those types of trips, to be truthful, other than entry fees and stuff, are often paid for by boosters or parents. In my experience. But again, it would be, I would say the same thing. Working through the coach, the boosters, you have to put together a proposal, the coach would bring that to the athletic director, the principal, up through the school board again.
I was just kind of concerned at whether or not, if it was in
I mean, I can't answer that, that's a board decision, but I'll just tell you, I anticipate them saying, as far as them being allowed to, this is school that time to make assignments and compete at the national level, or any type of thing, usually the answer is yes. I mean, I'd be surprised to hear someone saying, oh, no, we're not going to go. But all the rest of it in and around, you know, the dollars and cents, a lot of that usually for national pictures come down to, you know, boosters and those types of things. So just being honest, I don't know what to do.
No, I know, I appreciate it.
Request to be, and I'll be up to the board.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Ears. I have a couple questions.
Sorry, I couldn't hear your name.
Rebecca Ears. There was I'm guessing it's the PATS questionnaire that went around, or survey that all the kids in 6th grade got. Does anybody know what the questions were?
This is a paid survey, it's exclusive.
I think it's
Well, I'll let you finish, and then I'll answer.
well, I opted out. But my son took it not once but twice. And after he told me what the questions were and specific drug names that were on there, if he's ever taken them, if he knew how to get them, and of course, being a 12-year-old kid, he was curious when he read these names and Googled them later. Half of those drug names that he showed me, I had no idea what they were. I didn't expect him to come home and question me. I was quite upset. And there was also sex questions at the end for a 12-year-old in social studies class. I wish I knew ahead of time to get prepared for this, or that somebody could have reached out and said, hey, Mom, your son might come home and ask you about drugs and sex today. But that wasn't what happened. I just kind of got slammed with it. That can't happen. A 12-year-old should not be asked these questions in a social studies setting. It should not be told to him that you have to take it. It should be an optional thing for these kids. If he's feeling uncomfortable, unsafe, anything in that classroom, he should be able to say, I don't want to take it. He shouldn't feel like he's going to get belittled, treated like crap because he wants to get up and leave the room. That's ridiculous to me. Not just that part, but any child that's in that room that has been going through sexual assault at home, you have just confused them so badly. And I know you guys said this has been out there for years, but I never remember taking a test like this at 12 years old. If you want to do something for these kids, put them in a DARE program. That's great. At least I know he's going to a DARE program where he's going to learn about how bad it is to do these drugs. Wonderful. Pay attention to the kids about how bad drugs are. Great. But give them an opportunity to ask questions about it. Not in a social studies class where that teacher doesn't know how to answer those questions, and nor should they have to. The sex part blows my mind at 12. Okay? For anybody at that school to think it's okay to ask a 12-year-old about sex, and I'm sure there's kids out there that do it, I understand. Leave that up to the parents to choose whether it's okay to talk about sex with these kids. They've already seen enough crap online. I can't get over what he had came to me with. And thank God my kid's okay with coming and talking to me, not going, I'm gonna go ask if they do know where to get drugs. Like, that was one of the questions. Do you know where to get drugs from? No, but maybe the curious ones will go and find them. Like, I was blown away by some of the questions. And the repercussions that could come from that. I couldn't believe my ears when he was telling me these questions. The other thing is the possibility of getting metal detectors in middle school. we can avoid any type of damage to our teachers or other students, and even get out of the babes of the school, that would be perfect. And also communication with the parents from the teachers, whether it be bad behavior, bad grades. I understand we have the Tyler out for a reason. I can look on there and see his grade at any time, but I can't understand if he is getting a bad grade, if it's because he's falling asleep in class, if it's he missed homework that I didn't see, or whatever the situation is. So it would be great to hear a little bit more from the teachers. We get the report cards online. There's no feedback on it. There's nothing, hey, Derek needs to try to read more because his reading isn't great. There's no communication on those lines. And that bothers me. I was just at State Street with him, and there was so much communication with the teachers. It was wonderful. And now I feel like I don't even know any of his teachers, except for the one teacher that did email me was the art teacher to tell me how great he is, which is wonderful, but not where it usually counts the most. So, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question. Can you give me an example of a sexual question that was asked?
Having had sex is so important positions. I mean, we get that on video.
Sure.
You want to know the drugs that are asking you, and so yeah.
So, have you ever sniffed glue, used cocaine, used crack, used heroin, used hallucinogenics, LSD, acid, shrooms, methamphetamines, which you didn't understand that word, meth, crystal meth, crank, ecstasy, molly, can't even pronounce that one, but I guess such as magenta zip, didn't know what that is. Performance enhancing drugs such as steroids, human growth hormones, without a doctor's permission. Prescription pain relievers, Vicodin, Oxycontin, Percocets, codeine. Let's see. Valium, Xanax, Ambien, Nesta, Ritalin, Adderall, K2 Spice, Mr. Smiley, bath salts. It goes on. I don't know half of those. I mean, I've heard general few at the beginning. And then I read, what in the hell are they teaching my kid? Because he Googled about 50 to 75% of those. And you know what's on his Google? He knows where those are, what they look at right now, how they smoke them, because the images come up too. Now you saw these people on bath salts running around getting hit by cars. There has to be some type of process. Whoever's giving these texts, I don't know if it's going to get named. The reason it hits home, my cousin got an overdose at 22. I'll be darned if a school is going to introduce drugs to them. He would have had no clue before that.
That was all on one test?
That was on a test.
I can honestly say, like, I would be livid.
It was a survey.
I would be livid.
And I'm not condoning that, but my question for that is the sex thing I have an issue with. But the drug thing is, you think that by maybe seeing some of the answers, it alerts us to something that you don't
It's
think
like
that.
a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old that's doing drugs is going to go, yeah, my drug dealer, Joe over here.
Well, no, but they may say that they tried this or experimented.
But if it's a
And I'm
survey,
and again, I'm just
and
saying.
if it's unpaid, whatever they're doing, however they take a survey, because we don't know, we're just parents, we don't know about our kids, or what should we know? How are they keeping track of this?
This was done in a social studies class?
Yes.
So, let me, can I jump in here? I mean, okay, so, what, it's not, you're saying Kaz.
Don't excuse it, please, I'm sorry to interrupt, but please don't excuse it.
Pardon?
Please don't excuse it.
Nobody's
What is
excusing it.
that?
Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, nobody's excusing it. I think he's trying to give you
No,
some
I was
information.
just saying to him, because they were speaking, and I was saying, excuse me, I would like to say something.
Yeah, he was trying to correct, you
Not
know.
excusing it.
jump in.
So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it. You were saying paths, which they were talking about earlier. The state puts out what's called PACE survey, P-A-I-S, okay? They encourage school districts all the time to give these. Often in many of the districts I've been in throughout many years, we do not give them. I did notify the board to say that we would be doing a survey in regards to the PACE survey. And one of the reasons why we're doing that is many of the state grants for school resource officers, for safety equipment, they're looking for data from this PACE survey. So whose survey it is actually the state survey. That being said, if you weren't notified about that, that is a concern to me, if you weren't notified that your child would be given the PACE survey and you had an option to opt out.
We were.
Okay.
And
Okay.
whether I did it wrong, I'll give them wrong, the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I did it wrong, and I didn't opt out the correct way, but I think I did.
Okay.
Okay? Plus, I requested that you can request to get the form, on all the questions on it, never got it. It was gonna come in time anyways. That time he was supposed to take it, supposed to take all day. So who knows what other things are gonna be on there? It's supposed to be a whole Friday. It didn't save in the computer, so he had to take it again.
So,
My thing with the drugs, okay, back to you, and the sex thing I do have a problem with. If you guys had set up maybe an officer or a specialist to come in and discuss things, or be there available for a child to have a question about, or be uncomfortable with the sex questions, or anything, or at least have my child have an outlet to say, I'm not comfortable with a few of these questions. He's terrified to get in trouble at school. Like he really is. He would be terrified to stand up to his teacher and say, I am not comfortable with answering these, can I just go sit in the other room? It's just his nature that he doesn't want to cause conflict.
Did you talk to the principal at all about any of these concerns, or?
I wanted to come here and figure out if you guys knew the questions were actually on this, because that concerns me. And if you didn't know, they probably didn't know. I mean, you guys are the ones that approve all this, right? So if you guys didn't see these questions, it's probably for a reason. If it's statewide, you guys should have them. And if you guys didn't see them, you guys didn't see them. And I'm thinking there's a reason it was on that computer instead of on paper, so nobody could get a hand on them and actually read them or hand them out to everybody else. I'm thinking there was an issue with that, or at least a problem with the transparency between me and that program. So as long as we're clear on, he's no longer supposed to take those surveys. I'm okay with that.
she would need to reach out. She would just need to let whatever building principal know that you don't want, I mean.
Oh, they're good.
So you would let the folks know that you want to opt out. It's always a concern, and many boards and folks have decided not to give that PACE assessment for these very reasons. However, recently, I'm just explaining to you that it is a state assessment on one of the average income survey, and they are looking for this data when they report for grants. They also allow people to be able to opt out. So the only thing I can say is I apologize for anything if you did try to opt out and you weren't able to get there, and that was not successful. I apologize for that. But we did give that. It wasn't something that we made for our social studies class. The reason why I was given probably in social studies classes, that's the period where they decided at the middle school they would give it.
Would you be comfortable with your kid taking that and you not knowing about it?
Well, you should have known about it.
I mean,
If you didn't know about it,
I knew
I think
that
you
there was
know
going to
it.
be a survey, right? I did not have a clue what those questions were. Would you be okay with your kid taking that?
I'm gonna go back and
Questions.
I'm gonna go back and review the letter of the last time around. I'd like to look at that. I thought a lot of that, to be honest with you, was, some of that was suggested language from the state, I'm not positive, but, as far as like a letter that goes out, which
was very generic.
Very generic.
Yeah, I get that, but it's probably, I don't know, I'll have to look, but I think they give you and provide you with a sample letter that you're supposed to send out to parents and the office. Am I right on that? I mean, I think that's where we're at. They provide that to you.
I thought the state had the website, like I pulled it up too. There was like a 20-page resource on page.
Questions on it?
It doesn't have the exact questions, but it has like, that it will be explicit drugs, it will be sexual conduct. So, I mean, I don't know if that, because I don't have a sixth grader, so I don't know what the letter was, but I thought some of them came up with
Did
what
you guys
it
get a preview of the survey before you guys opted in to do that for grants?
I'm just saying that I personally, that it was them.
I'm sorry, I'm not just trying to talk to you, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your time. Okay. Before we conclude this evening, I would like to take a moment as the last meeting of our current board members and as my term as president comes to end, to thank you for your time of service. You stepped up to serve during one of the most tumultuous times in history as a board member. These 9 seats right here should never revolve around personal gain or personal feelings from one person to another. You all currently serving on this board have served with the utmost dignity and respect towards your fellow board members and community members. It has been my pleasure to serve alongside you, and I consider you all to be a group that truly cares about our children in this district. I look forward to spending more time in the community volunteering alongside each and every one of you. I've seen all of you doing amazing things in this community over the past several years. You've accomplished amazing feats as board members by supporting our district and our superintendent and our children. As a mom in this district, not as a board member, I've seen you do many great things and give of yourselves and your time and your money. And I personally want to thank you, and I appreciate all you've done. And it doesn't go unnoticed to me and other people in the community as well. So I thank you all. I enjoyed serving alongside you. I hope we will continue to serve and volunteer alongside each other for many, many years to come for the benefit of our children. Absolutely. And I would like to welcome the new board members that will be coming on. And some things, I appreciate everybody that comes as well. And I hope you'll continue coming with the new board coming in and working with the board and asking questions. There's many things that impact a district and its funding and our budget. Charter school tuition payments, pensions, special education costs continue to rise and cause budget issues. State funding for special education and charter school costs have declined. As mandated costs continue to rise and state funding declines, many cuts are going to be considered, and they're difficult choices. Sitting in this seat is not an easy binding. I've been on that side and I've been on this side. Both are not easy, but if you work together as a community, then you should see positive results. So I thank you all for always being respectful and look forward to still working with everybody. I still have a few years left on the board. I won't be in an executive role, but I'll still be around. And my love of volunteering with the kids is first and foremost, and I'll continue to do that. But I thank you all for being respectful. Okay, I have a motion on the floor to adjourn. So moved, Dr. Manuel. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Young, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Have a great night, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.